Hi guys, and welcome to a bonus Underworld podcast show. I'm your host in London, Sean Williams, on what is a weirdly sunny day for this time of year. And I'm guessing if you're listening to this show, you'll know already that there's some pretty crazy stuff going down in Culiacan, Mexico. Essentially, yesterday, the government of Andrés, Manuel, López, Obrador, I'm trying my Spanish as best as I can, aka AMLO, recaptured Ovidio Guzmán, son of El Chapo and a high ranker in the Sinaloa Cartel. And they transferred him to Mexico City ahead of a state visit by Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau. Shockingly, that hasn't gone down too well with the Sinaloa Sicarios, and all manner of chaos has broken out in Culiacan, leading to, I think the last count was three state troopers, the deaths of three state troopers there. So to unpack that and to tell us a bit more about what this arrest means for AMLO and the cartels is none other than Ioan Grillo, seasoned narco reporter, author, the man in the know. Welcome to the show, Ioan. Maybe you could start by telling us what the current situation is in Culiacan a day after this arrest.
Yeah, great to be here, Sean. So first of all, the death toll has just come through, the new death toll, and it's a lot higher. It's 29 dead yesterday.
Oh, shit.
10 military and 19 others. It was very severe yesterday. I mean, one video which went around a lot was a bunch of passengers in an Aeromexico flight, and the Sicarios fired on the plane while it was grounded, and it took a bullet, and they were all like crouching under their seats, hiding in the toilet of the plane. Kind of panic there, so that kind of brought things home. But also, just the kind of crazy stuff of big, heavily armed convoys on the streets, blockades, burning trucks. I mean, not only in Culiacan, right up to Sonora, quite far afield, they were kicking off. Some people started looting, and there was some also crazy video of people going in and trying to grab some massive fridge and try and stick it in the boot of their car, and it wouldn't fit. Jesus. And then it seemed to be that the Sinaloa Cartel guys themselves started rounding up looters, like saying, "Don't loot. You're not. We're the ones who are running this, not you." There were also, also some bad, and they're going into hospitals, like grabbing equipment, taking ambulances for their own people who've been shot. So pretty severe fighting there. Wow. However, this morning, this morning so far, it seems to be calm so far. We'll see if it holds. And the Public Security Secretary of Sinaloa just came out and said, you can leave your homes. It is safe, but let's see if this holds.
Yeah, I've seen crazy videos of people crouching in the plane, obviously, and there's loads of pictures of a trace of fire going over the rooftops and the smoke billowing up from the bloqueos all over the city. It really looks like a war zone. But this isn't the first time, right? This happened 3 years ago, or I think 3 and a bit years ago now, or maybe less. Yeah. So
obviously, to understand what happened yesterday, we've got to understand what happened in 2019. So in 2019, you had an elite Mexican military unit, anti-narcotics, who went in and grabbed Ovidio Guzmán in a luxury home in Culiacan around 2 p.m. And then all the Sicarios then very quickly mobilized, and they were pinned down in this house. And then you ended up with more soldiers coming and more Sicarios coming. It's in 2019. According to the military, it was 350 soldiers against 700 Sicarios. That's what they said for the numbers that time. But the military with Ovidio were like pinned down in the house and couldn't get him out. So by 6 o'clock in the evening, after a lot of fighting, after kind of threats to kill civilians and attacks on military headquarters of their wives and children, then the government conceded and handed away Ovidio Guzmán. So that was considered a real big stain on the presidency of López Obrador. It was like, anytime you mentioned, you wrote a story about Obrador fighting drug cartels, you could say, and in 2019, he freed Ovidio Guzmán, the son of El Chapo. So in some ways, this kind of slays the demons of 2019.
Yeah, I'm interested. You wrote a Substack, your Substack, Narco Politics. We'll leave a link in the description for the show as well. You chose to lead your story yesterday about everything going on yesterday with with a 2020 visit by AMLO to grieving Mormon families in Sonora. Why did you do that? What was the significance of that?
Yeah, so I did a lot of work with these Mormon families, work on a 4-part documentary for Discovery. But Lee, they mentioned that when they sat with him in this visit, and he said, the most regretful moment in my presidency was Ovidio escaping. So there's a lot of debate here about the politics of this. And I think the significance of these events are political. It's sad to say this is not going to affect drug trafficking, and we kind of know that already. Drugs are still going to be going to the United States. Ovidio's one player, a younger brother in the Chapitos, in like one faction of the Sinaloa Cartel, which is one of many cartels. But it's a big political day. And there's debate about exactly how corrupt López Obrador is, what kind of cartels he works with. And I mean, corruption here is completely rife. There's no doubt about that. But it works in quite complicated ways. And one thing I would say is that he was generally regretful. He saw this as a big state in his presidency. So I do believe it is likely he was in the know about yesterday and wanted this operation.
So could you give us an idea of what Ovidio and Joaquin Jr. and the other Chapitos, like what have they inherited from their father? How have they divvied up the family? How have they divvied up the farm, so to speak, and what's kind of remaining?
Yeah, so basically the Sinaloa Cartel, sorry, some noise there. Basically the Sinaloa Cartel has always, as I understand it, operated as a federation rather than one very top-down company. Basically, like you have various kind of, almost kind of understand it as kind of medieval England and kind of powerful nobles with their own henchmen and other kind of minor nobles who swear allegiance to them. So you have various centers of power, and you had El Chapo, obviously is a very powerful figure, but not a complete CEO of the company. El Mayo was also extremely powerful, and that was used in the defense of El Chapo in his court case in the United States. Now, when El Chapo was extradited to the United States in 2017, just as Trump was taking power, and there was like uncertainty how powerful these sons would be, the juniors, as they're known, in Culiacan. And, these were like, whereas the original Sinaloa Cartel leaders, Joaquin and Mayo, were tough men from the mountains, from the countryside, who'd grown up in poverty, these juniors were like rich kids who'd been to private schools. So it was like, okay, these have been in these private schools. Are they going to really be tough enough? You had these various lieutenants, like not respecting them, not swearing fealty to them. And the Chapitos really rose up and became a real force. And in many ways, their graduation was indeed that 2019 Culiacanazo when they freed Ovidio. And they basically created, they've updated the empire there. What they've done is they've really taken hold of the city of Culiacan, but some other areas around as well. And they updated it. They've got very, increased the work in synthetic drugs, which is a big earner, huge money earner. So crystal meth, fentanyl, massive amounts of those go to the United States. But also they got into running a kind of high-grade marijuana, and you've got these. It's quite bizarre. In Culiacan, you can go into cannabis shops, head shops that appear like they're from Los Angeles, full-on kind of designer, high-grade weed, and you can buy that, and it's basically the Chapitos are running those as well.
It's funny that we're going to add to the Nepo baby discourse online in this podcast as well. But yeah, I mean, so does it do anything? I mean, you mentioned, and I guess we all know that like just arresting one high-profile cartel leader doesn't really, suddenly kill the whole enterprise. But what does this actually do besides showing a good face for the Mexican government, I guess, or does it even do that much? What was the kind of significance on the political front as well?
I think Ovidio really became a symbol of impunity. the fact that, what happened in 2019, I think was very, very significant. The fact you can, soldiers can arrest a high-level target and he can be released because of pressure from the cartel. I mean, that is very, very significant. So I think saying that a person goes to prison, like putting some kind of, saying that impunity does not go is important. To say that cartels can't simply do whatever they like. In terms of the trafficking, I mean, it changes dynamics. This shows the Chapitos looking a bit weaker. They looked very, very, very strong. They looked like they had the kind of government with them, backing them. This shows them weakening, so it could increase maybe tensions inside the Sinaloa Cartel. You've got this tensions between the Chapitos and El Mayo, which are ongoing. They're not in open warfare, but there's definitely tensions there, problems there. At some point they could break out. El Mayo at some point will pass away. He's an old guy. But in terms of the trafficking, and it's sad to say, I mean, they're keeping on flowing, and it's a very, very hard situation. How do you deal with actual drug trafficking? I mean, for a long time, I've been a believer in drug policy reform and saying we have to look at legalizing a lot of drugs. However, these days, with the kind of fentanyl and with 107,000 overdose deaths in the United States, I do wonder, if, what we actually do about that. I don't think you can legalize fentanyl and crystal meth. So I don't know exactly what we do about those.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna quote your Substack as well now, because you mentioned some of the political sides of this kind of coup and getting Ovidio. You say, quote, even if AMLO was not in a know, it's a huge political gift that he can use to his advantage. As soon as Biden brings up the fact that US customs agents are seizing record fentanyl at the border, AMLO can respond that Mexico is fighting the traffickers. When people cite the Culiacan as an example of AMLO's weakness, they will need to cite the recapture as well. So it's kind of, it's a big coup. It's a big PR coup, really, for AMLO, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those things are important, and the timing of this is very important. So you always get, it's historically been the case, time and time again, that you get these big arrests right before these big meetings between the United States and Mexico. And, the Mexican presidents, they're going to go in this room. They're like, so you can imagine the scenes, they're going to go and meet the US president. Okay, go nab me a drug trafficker. Go and give me a raid, put the pressure on.
Yeah.
Because they're going to go and they sit in there, and Biden is under pressure over this overdose issue. I mean, I'm surprised in some ways that the fentanyl overdose issue is not even bigger in the United States. When you had 107,000 overdose deaths last year, I mean, that is quite incredible. And this is like an 8-fold increase over the last 20 years or so. So, the real pressure on Biden, then kind of he's going to bring this up, and then AMLO has an answer.
Yeah. And so I guess, does this show as well that the kind of different wings of the Mexican state or the Mexican law enforcement authorities are working hand in hand, or was this just something that was carried out by the Marines? I mean, how does it show those sort of inner workings in some way, or does it at all?
Yeah, no, sure. It's important. I mean, in Mexico, you've got these different agencies, and they're often fighting each other. I've actually covered, shootouts between the federal police and the city police. There's been, problems between the Marines and the soldiers and so forth. With this now, and with what AMLO's been doing, it's been becoming actually an increasingly militarized country over the last couple of years, particularly. He's been really beefing up the National Guard, which is now run directly by the army. The Marines have been taking over running customs. And you now see more coordination. Like yesterday, the way the operation happened and the way it was presented showed a lot more of a kind of united front among these groups than you'd seen, definitely seen 2 years ago.
Just quickly on the actual arrest itself. I mean, last time, basically war erupted and it caused the government to back down and release Ovidio. This time, you mentioned in your writing at Substack, it's a bit different, right? It might not go down the same way as before. I mean, essentially, they've ferried him away, so he's not even there anymore.
Yeah. So basically, in terms of it's our understanding when cartels do this violence, it's like understanding exactly why they're doing it. So basically, but last time they had a very clear objective. And there's a good academic who's talked about this, and he calls it violent lobbying, when you kind of use violence to try and it's interesting to try and understand why the cartels are committing this violence. And there's a term that an academic came up with, this idea of violent lobbying, which is like you're committing violence to try and lobby the state to do something, like in that case, release Ovidio Guzmán. But what when we seen this time, because they got him out very early, because they did the arrest around 4:30 in the morning, and then by 9 o'clock, by some accounts, he was on the plane and flying over Mexico to Mexico City. Then it was slow. The cartels, Sicarios, were slower to react, and there was not a clear objective. They were just carrying out violence and burning trucks without a clear thing they could achieve. So that was a real big difference in the dynamic there.
So I'm guessing you're going to be a busy boy the next few days reporting on all this. Where can we read more of your stuff then? You want to give a shout out to where we can find your work?
Yeah, please check out that Substack. Ioan Grillo on Substack on narco politics. I've got a website which is www.ioangrillo.com. IOANGRILLO. Very active on Twitter. I'm very appreciated if you read any of my books. You can see on Amazon 3 books on narco, gangster warlords, and blood gun money.
Cool. Well, I'll let you get back to your coffee, Ioan, and hopefully we'll come back to you a bit later down the year and find out a bit more about what's going on. But thanks for your time, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, really appreciate it. All best there.